The second half of Neandra Ladez and Usually Just a T-Shirt contains some of the most interesting pieces of music I've ever heard. In my mind, these 13 tracks will forever be an example of how someone can slowly descend into madness. The Untitled tracks were recorded in the order they appeared, so it makes sense to use them as a timeline when trying to analyze the album and its significance to John Frusciante's life. Although there are some incredibly sudden shifts in tone throughout the Untitled tracks, the overall shift in tone is very gradual. With Untitled 1 and 2, we start off with a feeling of slight unease. The music is still relatively grounded in reality. For example, the melancholic melodies in Untitled 2 give the track a very emotional feel. However, the second guitar track adds a layer of weirdness with its odd use of reverse guitar. Something is definitely off. As the track progresses, the guitar melodies start to become more ominous, hopeless, and even frightening at times, perfectly capturing the feeling of isolation. Untitled 3 is where these themes of depression start to be expounded upon. In this track, Frusciante states, "I'm sick of the frowns that follow me around." This could definitely be referring to the seemingly inescapable feeling of dread that comes with depression. With the last several lines of the song, Frusciante presents the idea of living in his own mind, and how much happier he would be if he wasn't stuck in the confines of reality, where his lyrics are just scribbling nonsense. This idea certainly explains a lot about Frusciante's more nonsensical lyrics that come in the later Untitled tracks. Untitled 4 works great as a very ghostly interlude. With the context of the other tracks, Untitled 4 could be seen as the calm before the storm that is Untitled 5, which is undebatably the most horrifying of the 13 tracks, filled with squealing noises, harsh textures, and demented voices. In my mind, Untitled 5 is the mental breakdown that marks the beginning of the end for Frusciante's mental state throughout the record. After the chaos finally settles down, Untitled 6 gives a brief feeling that things have returned to normal. However, this feeling doesn't seem to last long, as Untitled 7 ominously plays a slower version of Untitled 6. Perhaps the frowns that follow Frusciante are starting to catch up. As the next track starts, this becomes abundantly clear. No matter how hard Frusciante tries to escape from the real world, it always seems to catch up with him. Because of this, Frusciante often used heroin to escape from the world into his own mind. In Untitled 8, the feeling of disillusionment is very present. Listening to this song, it is very clear that Frusciante is getting closer and closer to losing his touch with the real world. This is even more evident in Untitled 9, a song that feels very sedated and druggy. However, towards the end of the track, the music starts to get a bit louder and more expressive, implying maybe that the intense high is starting to wear off. After the very brief interlude of Untitled 10, we are greeted with the droning organ sounds of Untitled 11, a track that feels like Frusciante finally coming down from this intense high, realizing that all he's left with is pain and suffering. The outro to this song is easily one of my favorite moments on the album. You can really hear the pain in Frusciante's voice with every lyric he sings. After all of this, we get to the grand finale, Untitled 12. To me, this track shows Frusciante at his lowest point. The lyrics here are more nonsensical than at any other point in the album, showing just how far from reality Frusciante has become. I've heard many describe this track as sounding like a man who is about to commit suicide, and I honestly can't disagree. The opening riff, as well as the solo that follows it, is utterly spectacular, and the middle section of the song aches with so much pain and emotion. At around 3 minutes, the song becomes much more melancholic, almost as if the guitar itself is crying quietly, as Frusciante's yelping vocals bleed with emotion. I would consider Untitled 12 to be a musical and lyrical masterpiece, and easily one of Frusciante's best.
To the avenues that seem to me defeat you. Did you ever try to hug the sky behind your head?
After this, Untitled 13, the final track on the album, erupts back into complete insanity, showing the result of Frusciante's mental state at the end of the album. Like I said at the beginning of the video, these 13 tracks are truly some of the most interesting pieces of music I have ever heard. The way that they show how the mental state of John Frusciante changes throughout the recording process is extremely interesting to me, and is an example of how music can help us better understand the artist on a deeper level. It's truly something spectacular. Anyway, thanks for watching.